Hey guys, so before this video gets started, we want to give you a chance to win 10 bottom meats for yourself. So all we want you to do at the end of this video, just comment in the comment section, what's your favourite bait to use on bottom meats. In a week's time from today, we're going to pick the winner in the comments below, and you'll get yourself 10 free bottom meats of your choice. So hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for supporting, watching all the vids, and yeah, comment on what yours is and hopefully you win.
Hi guys, P. Willie here. Luke Ryan from TackleWest has asked me to come in to talk a little bit about the new Bottom Meat Deluxe, okay? And he's getting a lot of requests about just getting a little bit more information on rigging bottom meats and what they're all about. So basically I'm going to explain what they're about, what baits to use on them, how to use them, and how to rig the baits. So the birth of bottom meat came about probably about 6 or 7 years ago. Luke and I were fishing out off Two Rocks, which is about an hour north of Perth, on a beautiful day with a northerly wind and a full moon, which is no good for fishing. Conditions been beautiful, we went anyway, and we jigged and used soft plastics in all the spots we normally get our fish quite easily and quite fast, but we didn't get a fish, like not even a decent sized fish to put in the icebox. Basically the fish were shut down. They wouldn't take a plastic or a jig, and we're about to come home. But what I did is I ripped the plastic off my jig head, and I got a piece of Sergeant Baker, which we did manage to catch, which is not a nice fish to eat. I won't say the word that we call them. And basically I've just put a piece of Sergeant Baker on the single jig hook, and I sent it down to the bottom, and I was going to make some sandwiches before we came back in. Now we just jigged and plastic over the same drift line where I put this bait down, which got eaten as soon as it hit the bottom. Now basically when the fish took it, I pulled the rod out the rod holder because I was making a sandwich, and I thought, what do? It's got a big piece of bait with a small hook in there. The fish has probably got it there. I can't pull it because it's going to pull out of its mouth. I can't give it line because the jig head, which is about 200 grams, will sink down and it'll pull the bait out of the fish's mouth. And when I put the bait on, I can't put it on like that because it'll twist all the way down, it'll twist your line, that won't present well. So basically I gave the slow lift and I felt weight, but the fish wasn't hooked, so it actually let go of the bait. I dropped a few handfuls of line down again, and I pulled up slowly, and then I gave it to it as hard as I could, and I actually hooked the fish under the chin. So the poor bugger was chewing on the bait here. The jig head had sunk down and actually hooked him up under the chin. So that fish was a 12.5 kilo West Australian Dhufish, so it saved the day. Now we went back over that spot drifting baits the same way. We caught a couple of break sea cod, a ball chin groper, and another Dhufish with the same technique. But we missed probably a dozen more fish because we weren't getting the hook inside the fish's mouth when it was chewing on the bait. So that night I thought, well, hang on, I can create something here. So I actually tied up a triple murder assist, which is that there. It looked nothing like this. It looked more like how Luke puts his clothes on before he goes out. It was pretty messy, but basically the idea to keep a bait nice and straight like that, to present a bait where a fish can hit that bait and not be able to get away without being hooked, it was my idea. Now basically 6 years on, and the bottom meat is in full flight. Now this is one of the best innovations that have come out of WA in terms of being something different, and it's changing the way people fish. It's catching more big Dhufish than anything else on the market, like hands down, and it's being copied by about 15 people because that's all sheep know how to do. So basically it must be pretty good if 15 sheep are following. So I'll show you. Okay, now I was saying before, bottom meats are changing the way people fish. I'll explain a little bit more about this. This is a traditional bottom fishing rig, demersal rig, reef fishing rig. Now they've been using this since 1980. Okay, this is old school. The reason being is because of the gear we used to use before braided line. Someone was using a dirty big trolling outfit like this to bottom fish for snapper and Dhufish in 20, 30, 50, 80, 100 meters of water. Now people don't want to use this anymore. It's heavy, it's old school, and it's no fun. Sure, it catches fish, and as does this rig. But what happens is when you put two big baits on this rig, you need 12 or 16 ounces of lead to get down to 40 to 60 or 80 meters. You can't use that on the gear we want to use. That's a slow pitch outfit. this is what we want to use. It's light, it's fun, it's nice and easy to use, and it's not tiring to use. It's much more fun to catch a fish on, and you'll hook more fish on lighter line, on lighter gear. So basically what happens with this is when it goes down with your dirty big sinker, these baits are propellering around and around and around and around. Okay, so it's twisting, it's carrying on, it doesn't present the bait well, and that's why you need a big sinker to get those two big baits down to the bottom. Now, with a bottom meat, I can rig a fill of the fish on that and whip it on like that. Okay, I spend a bit of time doing that, and I can get this down 80 or 90 meters on a PE 2 to 3 outfit on a half decent day. So this rod and reel here, which is the nice light fun one to use with PE 2 or 3 on it, I can drop this. Even if the rod rating is not 250 grams, you're not jigging this, you're using it as a bait. So I can get this down 70, 80, 90 meters, okay? Because when the bait's going down, if you tie your baits on like this, okay, and whip them down, there's no flapping. It's like a cigar shape, and the bait and the head will get pulled down like that. So the head pulls the bait down, and it actually goes to the bottom rapid. It gets to the bottom fast, there's no flapping, there's nothing hanging off it, there's no swivel with two baits flipping around with a sinker at the bottom. It just goes for it, straight to the bottom. Now, when you get to the bottom, you can leave it there, lift it up a little bit, no jigging, no moving, and you let the fish eat it. It wants to eat it, you just let the fish do its work.
So if you've used bottom meat before, you'll know there's actually a variety of sizes that they come in. They start at a 20 gram weight and they go all the way up to a kilo, depending on how deep you're fishing. So it does pay to have a bit of variety in your boat. If you're fishing out a bit deeper, then you can have a heavier weight, and if you're fishing shallower, then you can fish with a lighter weight, obviously.
So if you're fishing the Coburn Sound, or Port Phillip Bay or Western Port if you're over Victoria, if you're fishing for snapper with the old humble pilly, a 20 grammer, something like this, that's 20 gram head weight. You can use that as an anchor drift bait, like you can cast it out the back and let it drift back down, or a stray liner if you're a Kiwi, or you can drop this down and drift slowly, so it's just under your boat in sort of 4 to 20 meters of water. Pilly on there, whip it on, I'll show you how to do it later. The pilly will go down like that, it won't go down in circles like it would if you're using a snell and a ball sinker. So basically that's the whole idea of it. Now if you're fishing, say reef fishing in 20 to 40 meters of water at Exmouth, you might be using something around 80 grams or maybe even 40 or 60 grams. It just depends on the day, what PE line you're using. So if you're using 80 pound braid, then you need a bigger head. If you're using PE2, like 20 pound braid, you'll get that little 80 down to about 30 or 40 meters on a good day. Now if it's blowing 15 knots and you're still fishing and you're using your PE2 or 3, it's a boy, you might need something up to 200 grams to reach 40 meters, okay, because obviously your boat is drifting faster. Even if your line is thin, you're still going to require more weight. Now I'd always use something heavier rather than lighter, because this is not a lure in any way, it's a bait descent mechanism. So you want that to get down to the spot as quick as possible and stay down there. You don't want it to be lifting as the boat's drifting, you don't want it to be going out there and coming off the bottom, you want it to stay down. So basically if you're using say a 100 gram jig in 30 meters of water for slow pitch jigging, I reckon you go 150 to 200 in a bottom meat. Okay, I'm going to talk about bait and what sort of baits you use for bottom meat. So basically a pilly, probably our most popular bait over here. A 40 gram head, for instance, something that you would use, as I said, in the Sound, or if you're over east, Port Phillip Bay for a snapper, or even inshore, in some of those places up north where you're fishing inshore for golden snapper, finger mark, black dew, all that sort of stuff. Perfect little size here. You can chuck on 30 or 40 pound line on a nice light outfit, and basically with this stretchy ocky and the flash in there, this ocky is so stretchy, and this will lift like probably something 3 times that size. For instance, let's get a 250 gram head there. I might be able to lift that off the ground on one tentacle. There you go. So that's 250 grams on one tentacle of these ockies. So basically the oki's just there for a bit of moral support to the bait. I mean, the fish will eat this without bait on there, but hey, if you put some bait in there, it's just going to sweeten the deal a little bit more. But all these little legs flipping around, all this flashy UV flash in there, and some nice strong harbour hooks with a circle on the top. So a big fish will take that in, the circle will just neatly go around into the side of his jaw, and then these two hooks will follow on and they'll belt him in the side of the face. So you don't need 3 hooks to land a fish or to hook a fish, but you need 3 hooks to present a bait. That's what some people just don't understand. They think, oh, you only need 2. If you put 2 hooks on there, it'll fold in the middle. It's like putting a pilchard on a set of snells rather than a set of gangs. Like a set of snells is good to fish, but gangs keep it nice and straight. It doesn't propeller, it doesn't kink like that on the way down, it stays straight. So I'm going to show you, I'm just going to whip this piece of fillet on here now and just show you how easy it is. So I pull that oki back as far as I can. Now line it up, get his legs out of the way. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, but it's just so nice to have. So you want a little bit of overhang there. I always go meat out, scales in. So basically this is going to end up in here somewhere. This has got the scales on. Scales on or off, depends what species of fish really. I don't mind the scales on because they're going to be tucked inside, but if it's a big scale fish like a mullet, I like to take them off. So it's just like putting a pilly on really. You just got to stagger it so it's going to look half decent. Okay, and I've set them a little bit loose there so I can push the hook points out. Now you got the circle. This is the money hook, mate. This is the one that catches your big fish, this circle. So you get that little tentacle out the way, pop that circle in there, always go up under the scales and in, like that. So there you go. Now you can drop that over the side like that, no problems, and fish it like that. But if you want to make it go down quicker and stay on a little bit better, what I do is I fold all of that back. I always start with the top one, and I fold that in like that, cigar shape. Trusty bait thread. This stuff here, don't ever buy one roll of it because you'll lose it or your mate will throw it overboard. Get half a dozen and scatter them around the boat. Okay, let's go to town on this. Now I'm going to put this on pretty rough. I'd normally spend a little bit more time on them, but I've prepared a couple at home in front of the footy, but I can show you later. But basically, there's no written rule on how to do it. You just want to make it hard for the fish to get off without getting hooked, and you want to make it cigar shaped, not too flappy, because it's going to get to the bottom quicker, more efficiently, and it will stay down the bottom better if it's a little bit more streamlined. Okay, so that's just a bit of a quickie, a couple of half hitches, and you just pull that back in. That stuff always sticks to you. Pull that back in like that, and then you've got a nice little cigar shaped bait. Put the oki back over the top of it, get all those legs back down, crank that down a bit, and then basically you are ready to go. Now that 250 gram head will sink that bait straight to the bottom. It'll get down nice and quick, no flapping, and if you can imagine any fish trying to take that bait off there, your smaller fish like bulging groper or pink snapper, ones with smaller mouths, will get caught on there. And your big daddy, big jewfish or red emperor or coral trout, he'll get nabbed on that top hook there. Now what's the best bait to use? There's no such thing. It's basically, I feel the best bait is what you're catching locally. All the little rubbish fish that you catch while you're catching the big fish, because that's what they're hunting for. But to go out, you've got no bait to start off with. So you either got to buy some pillies, which obviously something like that. You got to buy some squid, like this, or buy some nice fresh oki, which is a good bait too. Now what I tend to do is, when you go out there, you don't want to fluff about when you get out to your favourite spot. I prepare some before I go out. So I'll get, like that's a big jewfish bait. Okay, so that's I've whipped this up at home in front of the footy. I spend a little bit more time, and then I'll cryovac it. I'll put it into a cryovac bag like that, and I'll put about a dozen of these baits together before I go, so I don't have to try and catch bait when I'm out there when it's prime time to fish. The tide's just changed, you can see fish on the sounder, you got no bait. So I prepare some fillet baits like that. I really like fish fillets. So basically all you got to do is get your bottom meat before you go out. I'll show you, I'll get my split ring pliers here. You get your bottom meat before you go out, and you just take this off. So yeah, a pair of split ring, this is how easy it is. Just get some split ring pliers, take that off, put that ready on the boat, or you can rig it up on your rod ready to go, as long as it's not going to belt around. And I'll set up half a dozen of these the night before I go out with various baits on there, and I'll whip them up and I'll cryovac them like this, and then off we go. Then as you start to catch the rubbish fish off the bottom, like Sergeant Baker and stuff like that, or even silver trevally, not that it's a rubbish fish but very good bait, you can start filleting them and using them for bait out on the boat. And now that is the best bait, that fresh stuff. Squid bait, everything loves squid. Basically, you know, I take the head off the tube and basically I turn it inside out, belt it a little bit sometimes, and then I just whip that on. I can whip that onto a set of triple murders or an ocky leg like that. That's a beautiful bait. I beat it a little bit. I leave some of the suckers on and I skin it halfway. But you've got to remember, fish don't find a perfectly white skin piece of octopus when they're down there. That's natural. It won't fill up with water because I've taken the skin off one side. And basically, I prefer not to use big long baits like this. A lot of people do. I'm just showing them to you because that's the most popular bait used for West Australian jewfish. Big pieces of ocky. Now, my theory is any jewfish that's going to eat that will eat a smaller bait like this too. Now, I can tell you which one he's going to hook up on better. A soft fish fillet will hook up better than octopus, and he cannot bite that bait without getting a hook in him. Sometimes they grab the end and try and pull it off, so a smaller bait stays down better, and I think you'll catch more fish on a smaller bait. Guys, I'm going to quickly show you how to rig a pilly. Like, again, it's not rocket science, but there's some guys out there that don't really know how to do it. I always go head up, okay, not head down, head up, because you want the fish to be going the same direction it naturally swims in. Now, most people put it through the eye, okay, which is cool. I don't like the eye so much because sometimes the hook comes back out the eye, even if it's a circle. I go in front of the eye or behind the eye. So basically, work out where you want it, and then you pop the hook's back in here, okay, under the backbone, like that. Having him nice and straight, just like that, like you would with a set of gangs. And now, this end one here is pretty important to get behind his gill rakers, okay, and pop it nice and through both sides of the gill raker, like that. Okay, so you got the pilly on. Now, this is the important part, this bait thread. What I do is I squeeze the hook shank to the back of the pilly's head, and I'll actually get all this fluff out of the way and then whip him from head down, okay, like that, all the way down. What this will do is it'll just make it harder for the fish to get it off, and it won't break off if the weather's a bit rough. If it's rough and windy and you're belting around, sometimes that pilly will come off. So when you finish it off, don't half hitch it too hard into his body, because what will happen is it'll actually snap it in half. So once you get it like that, you can put that skirt. I don't pull it right over his head. I prefer to have it just at the start of the set of gangs there, and then basically that there will present beautifully. Sink down to the bottom. It'll be hard for the fish to get off, and if he wants to get that off, he has to get a dirty big mouthful of hook. So really good for pink snapper, for groper, for cod, for coral trout, red emperor, or any of those fish that like eating pillies. Okay guys, so that's bottom meat in a nutshell. We'll be doing a few more videos to go more in depth later on, and maybe show you a few pictures. We'll be running a few competitions too, but that's bottom meat in a nutshell. I hope you get out there and use them and enjoy them, and if you catch some fish, be sure to send us the pictures through. Cheers.